The highway stretches like a weathered ribbon through endless Nebraska grasslands, where memories drift as silently as prairie shadows. Landscapes hold secrets deeper than human recollection, preserving narratives that transcend individual lifetimes. In these quiet terrains, abandoned structures become more than mere buildings. They transform into living archives of human experience, silent witnesses to generations of unspoken stories and complex emotional landscapes. Jack Harrison never anticipated inheriting a decaying roadside landmark that seemed more spectral than substantial. His family's history was a carefully constructed silence, a deliberate absence punctuated by unresolved tensions and carefully guarded secrets. The Starlight Motel represented more than a physical inheritance. It was a psychological threshold, a portal into understanding the intricate web of familial connections that had been meticulously obscured throughout decades of calculated omission. The motel's architectural remnants spoke volumes about transient American dreams. Its faded neon sign hung askew, letters fragmented into St. Lig T Moel, a symbolic representation of incomplete narratives. Rusty metal chairs lined the walkway, positioned as if perpetually anticipating guests who would never materialize. Each room contained fragments of accumulated memory, water-stained wallpaper peeling like aged skin, a solitary forgotten suitcase suggesting interrupted journeys, photographs bleached into ghostly impressions by decades of unfiltered sunlight. Generational trauma rarely announces itself dramatically. Instead, it seeps through architectural membranes, whispering through abandoned corridors and manifesting in subtle environmental nuances. Jack's grandfather had constructed this motel in 1952, a tangible manifestation of post-war optimism and the quintessential American promise of mobility and reinvention. Yet something fundamental had fractured, a moment of profound disruption that caused familial connections to gradually unravel, leaving behind only architectural echoes and unspoken tensions. Meticulously preserved registration books revealed cryptic entries, handwritten notes, with addresses strategically crossed out, telephone numbers fading into deliberate illegibility. Each page represented a potential narrative constellation, each scribbled mark a potential emotional revelation. Jack gradually understood that he wasn't merely inheriting a physical structure, but a complex psychological terrain populated by generational ghosts and unresolved relational dynamics. Local townspeople regarded him with a nuanced combination of cautious curiosity and calculated restraint. Their collective gaze suggested profound, unspoken knowledge, fragments of a narrative carefully preserved within communal memory. The Starlight Motel transcended its physical parameters, emerging as a sophisticated repository of small-town secrets, containing intricate networks of deferred dreams, severed connections, and carefully guarded familial mythology. As sunset transformed the prairie into a canvas of muted golds and deep purples, Jack comprehended that inheritance represents far more than material possession. It constitutes a profound act of receiving unfinished stories, of recognizing the delicate, almost imperceptible threads connecting disparate generations. The motel wasn't a conclusive endpoint, but a contemplative pause, a breath between narratives waiting to be understood, interpreted, and ultimately integrated. Within this liminal space between conscious memory and collective forgetting, Jack began meticulously reconstructing a family history that had been strategically obscured for decades. Each architectural detail, each faded photograph, each weathered document became a potential fragment of understanding, a means of deciphering the complex emotional topography that had shaped his family's unspoken narrative. The silent road, stretching endlessly through Nebraska's vast grasslands, had always been more than a mere transportation conduit. It represented a metaphorical journey of discovery, a pathway through time and memory, leading individuals toward understanding their most fundamental origins. For Jack, this road had finally transformed from an abstract concept into a tangible route of personal reconciliation. In the twilight of understanding, Jack realized that some inheritances cannot be measured in monetary value or physical property. They exist in the realm of emotional archaeology, delicate, nuanced discoveries that require patience, empathy, and a willingness to confront the complex, often uncomfortable narratives that shape human experience. The Starlight Motel stood not as a conclusion, but as an invitation, a silent testament to the profound, often unspoken stories that connect us across generations. The dust swirls, like forgotten memories across the cracked asphalt of Highway 83, where a faded neon sign flickers weakly against the endless Nebraska horizon. A rusted motel sign creaks, its paint peeling like the layers of a story waiting to be unraveled. This is where Sarah Matthews first discovers the inheritance that would change everything, a roadside relic holding more secrets than rooms. The highway stretches like a weathered artery through the heartland, carrying whispers of lives interrupted and dreams abandoned. Sarah's hands gripped the steering wheel, her reflection fractured in the rental car's window. A 38-year-old photographer carrying more emotional baggage than her single suitcase. She never knew her grandfather, never understood why her mother spoke of him only in hushed, trembling tones. The Starlight Motel stands as a testament to forgotten American dreams, its 12 rooms a shrine to mid-century optimism now worn down by decades of neglect. Paint chips like memories falling away, revealing layers of history embedded in every weathered board and rusted doorframe. This wasn't just a building. It was a family legacy waiting to be understood. When the lawyer handed her the deed, Sarah knew this was more than a simple inheritance. Her grandfather, Thomas Reynolds, had built this motel in 1962 with hands calloused from hope and determination. Each room told a story, of travelers passing through, of families seeking temporary refuge, of dreams both realized and abandoned along this lonely stretch of highway. The first room Sarah enters feels like stepping into a time capsule. Faded floral wallpaper peels at the edges, revealing glimpses of earlier patterns underneath. A vintage rotary phone sits on a side table, its cord tangled like the complex family history Sarah was about to unravel. Photographs in dusty frames hint at lives partially remembered, partially forgotten. Her grandmother, Elizabeth, had left suddenly in 1965, a mystery that had haunted her mother's childhood. Family stories were fragmented, like broken mirror pieces reflecting incomplete truths. Sarah had spent years as a documentary photographer capturing other people's narratives, never expecting to find her own most compelling story right here, in this forgotten motel. The registration desk still holds old guest books, their pages brittle with age. Sarah's fingers trace signatures of travelers from decades past, truckers, salesmen, families on cross-country adventures. Each name represented a moment frozen in time, a brief intersection of lives along this lonely highway corridor. Historical records revealed that the motel had been more than just a business. During the late 1960s and early 1970s, it served as an unofficial waypoint for civil rights activists, a safe haven for travelers during tumultuous times. Her grandfather, it seemed, was not just a businessman, but a quiet guardian of human dignity. Conversations with local townspeople slowly filled in the blanks. Old-timers remembered Thomas Reynolds as a man of few words, but profound integrity. He would offer reduced rates to weary travelers, sometimes providing meals to those who couldn't afford them. The motel was more than a financial enterprise. It was a community lifeline. Investigating further, Sarah discovered letters hidden in a locked drawer, correspondence between her grandfather and various civil rights organizations. These weren't just business documents. They were evidence of a man who understood compassion transcended racial boundaries. Each letter was a testament to quiet courage, to standing firm when societal pressures demanded conformity. The rooms held their own silent testimonies. One room showed signs of hasty repair, a window replaced, walls patched, suggesting moments of tension, perhaps confrontations with those who disapproved of her grandfather's progressive stance. The motel wasn't just a building. It was a battlefield of social change, one room at a time. Photographs Sarah discovered revealed a complex family narrative. Her grandmother wasn't simply a woman who abandoned her family. She was a musician, a jazz pianist who toured with integrated bands during a time of significant racial tension. Her departure wasn't an escape, but a form of resistance, a life lived authentically despite societal constraints. The economic history of Highway 83 itself became a metaphor for changing American landscapes. Once a vital transportation artery, it had slowly been rendered obsolete by interstate highways. The Starlight Motel mirrored this transition, a symbol of adaptation, of surviving when the world around you transforms continuously. By piecing together fragments, letters, photographs, local testimonies, Sarah reconstructed a family history far more nuanced than she'd ever imagined. Her grandfather wasn't just a motel owner. He was a quiet revolutionary. Her grandmother wasn't a deserter, but a trailblazer in her own right. The final revelation came through an old tape recording found in a dresser drawer. Her grandfather's voice, crackling with emotion, explained everything. A commitment to human dignity, to providing sanctuary for those society often overlooked. He spoke of love transcending boundaries, of creating spaces where everyone was welcome. As sunset painted the highway in amber and crimson, Sarah understood her inheritance wasn't just a physical property. It was a legacy of compassion, of standing quietly but firmly for what's right. The Starlight Motel was more than a building. It was a living testament to her family's unspoken courage. The neon sign outside flickered one last time, as if acknowledging a story finally brought into light. Highway 83 continued its endless journey, carrying new stories, new hopes. And here, in this forgotten corner of Nebraska, a family's hidden narrative would continue to resonate, a whisper of humanity against the vast American landscape. The highway stretches like a weathered ribbon through endless Nebraska grasslands, where memories drift as silently as prairie shadows. Some stories are etched not in words, but in the peeling paint of forgotten places, places like the Starlight Motel, where silence holds more truth than any spoken confession. Jack Harrison never intended to inherit anything, least of all a decaying roadside landmark that seemed more ghost than building. His father's name was never spoken in their family, a deliberate absence that created a vacuum of unresolved history. But here he was, standing before a structure that looked like it had been slowly dissolving into the surrounding landscape for decades. The motel's faded neon sign hung askew, its letters half missing, St. Lig T Moel, a fragmented memory of something once vibrant. Rusted and metal chairs still lined the walkway, positioned as if waiting for guests who would never return. Each room told a fragment of a story: water-stained wallpaper, a single forgotten suitcase, photographs bleached by decades of unfiltered sunlight. Family history isn't always told through words. Sometimes it seeps through walls, whispers in abandoned spaces, reveals itself in the quiet accumulation of forgotten moments. Jack's grandfather had built this motel in 1952, a testament to post-war optimism and the promise of the open road. But something had happened, something unspoken that caused the family's connection to this place to slowly unravel. Old registration,